Okay, we are now recording. We're going to look and see how we can put two box plots side by side. Basically, we want to make it look like this, or at least similar. You know, it might not have the exact same colors or anything like that, but let's try to make it similar. Now, in order for us to do this, and we're putting two different graphs, two different separate columns, dogs and cats, or mean number of cats and mean number of dogs per household on the same graph, on the same sort of plot, we need to make sure we really understand sort of what's going on under the hood. So under the hood, this guy, so I'm just gonna make a square. This just represents our graph, right? This is what we call our figure. So whenever we dealt with fig size, or if we dealt with anything with figure or fig anything, this is dealing with the figure. Today, we're going to look at if we wanted our graph to be larger or smaller, we can adjust that. So that's our figure. You can sort of think about it as if you have one of those pictures that has like a frame around it at your house. And then sometimes within that, there's another instance of where the actual photo exists. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, where there's a little bit of spacing, right? From where the art begins and then where it sort of rests. Same sort of thing applies here. So this main piece is called our figure, but within our figure is called our axe, or often referred to axis. It's with an E, not an I. And so this guy is our axe. That's where you actually visually see the stuff. This is what we are actually altering, is the axe. That's what sort of contains our art, if you will. Cool. So in order for me to do this, what I need to do is I actually need to manipulate this axe, right? To where I can alter what I am seeing and where I'm seeing it at. What's nice about that is I can say I want them on top of each other. So I want one graph here, one graph here. I can say I want it to have multiple rows to where I can have almost like you know, one graph here, one graph here, one graph here, one graph here. I have sort of flexibility to alter however I want, right? I'm the artist and this is my paintbrush. Cool. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
Cool.
Kind of like Tableau. I guess you think of it like Tableau. I mean, it's pretty much how it is.
Yeah, I'm sure Tableau is probably built on Matplotlib. So yeah, exactly. You're altering the exact same thing, right? Okay. So with that being said, in order for me to even establish my fit, or in order for me to start altering my axe, I have to establish that. So the way we do that is we say fig, comma, axes. So let's just go ahead and do that. Say fig, comma, axes. And in Python, this is just a declaration of two different variables, right? So I can say, you know, if I want to say x comma y equals 3 comma 4, that's just me. Instead of having to say x equals 3, y equals 4, I can just do it as x, y equals, that's a y, equals 3, 4, right? And Python will just assign the letters to that. So just so you guys know, that's what that comma is doing. It's assigning two different things, fig and axis. And now I'm going to say that is equal to,
I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. And now I'm going to actually create our subplots. And so this is just me defining it. This is me setting it up. So I'm going to say PLT, because we're using Matplotlib, dot subplots. Perfect. And this is a method. So let's go ahead and add our parentheses. Now there's different things, as you can see. Let's just actually stay right here. Here, this method of subplots takes in rows equals 1 and columns equals 1. That is just by default. That's what these are. These are the default values here. Now I like to be explicit whenever I'm defining this. So let's say in row, let's just copy this basically. Let's just type that exact same thing. We're saying we want this, we want one row, one column, meaning I just want one graph. And calls equals 1. Yeah, perfect. So what that's doing is it's saying, I just want this only one. I don't need some sort of grid or anything. I just want one, right? That's where everything I do is going to be on this one. Cool. And then the last thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and change my figure size. So I'm going to say comma fig size. And that's from this guy right here. We're going to talk about those args and quarks a little bit today. So we're going to say fig size, S-I-Z-E.
Sorry.
No, you're totally fine. And that is going to equal, and Joe, I'm just going to give you the answer here. It's going to be parentheses 8,5. And this is just defining how large I want this graph, right? If I, it'll be 8 comma, sorry, not 8.
Okay, comma, sorry. 8, comma,
No, you're
5.
fine. Cool. So this is me defining my fig and axis, right? So now what I can do is let's go down to the next line and let's actually start altering this X. So I'm going to say box plots because we have plural. So I'm going to create a new variable called box plots. And that is going to be equal to axes, which is this guy. And let's actually create a box plot. So axis dot box plot. Perfect. Now, what I'm going to do is in this guy, because my axis, I just have one graph, I can pass in both columns that I want as a box plot. So let's say parentheses, this is my method. So I'm now calling in the same way whenever I said, dot plot, and that was a method. Cool. So now I have to first pass through, well, what am I wanting to plot? Well, I want to plot the column of my data frame that is mean number of cats. So let's go ahead and say, yep, exactly, DF. It's a capital N.
Mean number of cats.
And then mean, it's kind of the worst.
Do I do comma and then DF again?
Exactly. Because I want 2 different, right? Yep. And then this is mean number of dogs per household. Yeah, it's so dumb naming convention. Okay, perfect. So also just to note, because I'm passing in multiple, do you remember whenever we had columns and I wanted multiple columns, what I had to do on top of that? I had to put them in a bracket, right? I was passing in like a list of column names. So let's put that entire thing in a bracket.
The whole with the parentheses?
Sorry, inside the parentheses.
Okay.
So I want a list, which is item, position 0 is number of cats, position 1 is that. Perfect. Yeah. So that's the first argument I'm passing through to my box plot. I am saying these are the things I want to plot. Okay. Let's just run this and see if we get anything. I don't think we might get something. Okay. So we've got a very basic box plot where 1 is cat. This is my cat, right? And this is my dog. Cool. I have now put both of them on the same axis. Sorry, I shouldn't have, it's this entire thing. So now I've plotted them together. Now I can do certain things and I can change the way it looks. And we'll go ahead and do that right now to sort of make it look a little bit more similar to that. So in doing that, if I look here, you see this, how this kind of comes in. That's what we call a notch. So what let's do is when we're adjusting our box plot, it's within our method, right? Everything we're doing is within this method for right now until I alter specific ones. So after this list, yep, let's do a comma. And normal convention, you could do this all on one line, or what you normally would do is just press return. And then it'll get it. Yeah, all sort of, it's just easier and more,
Read.
Yeah, easier to read. So you do that. Okay, so let's say notch equals true. Perfect. So we're just going to go sort of line by line. So we're seeing how everything's doing that. Okay. So let's do that. Cool. So now it's starting to look more similar. Okay. And then if we want to add another argument, we just continue to add a comma that must separate every single argument that we're passing through. So let's do a comma. And then let's go to a new line. And then let's say labels. Let's go ahead and label this as a cat and this as a dog. And so we're going to say labels equals, and we're going to pass in a list of our actual labels. Now it is important to note whichever one you do first. So because we did cats first, we want to pass in cats first, or else it's going to assign the label of dogs to cats if they were switched. Perfect. Let's run it and see what it's doing. Cool. So now I've got cats and dogs. Awesome. Cool. I can change the width, like it's super small right now. If I wanted a little bit larger, I could say, let's add in another one where there's an argument called width. And if you're ever wondering like, hey, how do I just know that these arguments are here? They're all right here, right? Like this gives you, we're going to use a ton of this stuff like median props. We're going to use box props as well. But looking at the actual documentation of matplotlib or plt dot or axes dot boxplot, and that will get you the documentation. You can understand like what is patch artist, what is show means. If I wanted to show the mean, I want to say, or if I wanted to show different things, I can do that. So we're not going to do all of those, obviously. You don't have to, but okay. So for width, let's just do that as equals 0.7.
Is it widths or width?
It's widths, plural. Yeah, so it's just like this guy right there. Yeah, so with an S. Okay, so let's run this and see how it goes. See if it makes it any larger. Okay, perfect. So now we're getting there, right? It's starting to look very, very similar to what we're working on. Okay. Now, what we want to do, and Ashley and I were actually diving into this earlier, is if I'm wanting to fill the color of this, then what I'm going to pass in is an argument called patch artist. So if I say patch artist equals true, patch underscore artist, so it's just like this guy right here. Perfect. I'm going to say that patch artist equals true. Okay. Now, if we run it, I don't think anything's going to happen because we haven't done any sort of coloring. Oh, it does. Sorry. So by default, now you even see we have a little bit different transparent or like a transparency rate, but we're seeing, okay, this is looking very, very similar, right? Even a similar blue. That's awesome. Now, if we're wanting to follow this exactly, we see that the median line is yellow and this one looks, I'm partly colorblind. So I think this is red / orange, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what that? Okay, cool. Sorry. I am partly colorblind. So sometimes with these colors, graphs are the worst for me. Okay. So let's go ahead and change the properties. We remember whenever we were looking at box plot, we were reading that there was a median props. And the reason we can do that is what this box plot will allow is anything with like a median. It's called like an arg and a kwarg, to where it will accept arguments of so like if there is a median class, the box plot will accept arguments for the median properties that the median class has. Now that's sort of a heady, but let's go into what that means. Let's go ahead and press a comma or do a comma, and let's change that median. And the way we do it is if we look at this, we saw that it was median props equals none. This is our properties of our median. Cool. Now, when we do this, we must pass in, if we look at the documentation, we actually have to pass in a key value pair, right? The way that it works is we pass in a key value pair. Now I can create that, or I can just say, instead of actually creating it, let's just say dict, D-I-C-T, parentheses. And this is creating that dictionary for us of args and kwargs, right? So I've created an argument, or I pass in an argument, and then it will create the key value. So there's a couple things I want to do. I want to make sure my line style is a line. So I'm going to say line style within that. Yep. And it's going to say equals. And then if I wanted it to be a dash in my parentheses, I would do 2 sort of minus signs or just dashes, but we want it to be a singular line. So I'm just going to say line. And it is in my parentheses.
Sorry, every time you speak or move, it kind of exits me
No,
out.
sorry. Yeah, no, sorry. Okay, so, and just also so you know, if we are passing multiple properties within our median, we will typically do that on one line. So you don't have to do every single, you don't have to break it down even more. So okay, we've changed our line style. Let's also change our color. So within my dictionary, but we're going to do a new property. So we do a comma. So, yep. And then we're going to say color equals, and then let's do yellow. So just in quotation, yellow. Yep. Perfect. Cool. So let's even see if that runs. Cool. So we've changed our line to yellow. If I wanted to change the line width, I could just with the property of line width. We don't have to. We can if you wanted to. Doesn't necessarily matter.
One word or underscore?
It is one word, line width, width. Yep. And then here, let's just do 2. Perfect. Cool. It's just a little bit thicker. Awesome. Okay. So we've created my median props. Awesome. Now I can create a box prop if I wanted to, if I wanted certain line styles. For right now, I don't know that we need it. It looks pretty good. So let's not do that. And then let's see if we alter, if we need to go ahead and change. So it seems like we're done here, right? We've created these 2 box plots. They're on the same graph, but if we're seeing, if we're trying to match our, different, if we want to match this image to our left, then I see that one is a different color. So let's go ahead and do a new line. So let's get out of this box plots method.
Sorry.
No, you're super fun.
There we go.
Perfect. Yep. All still within this. Great. So one thing to note is when we're dealing with our axes, right? And I've got these multiple graphs, it sort of treats it the same way as a list, right? To where I've got this is position 0 and this is position 1, right? So if this graph is, if I want to target it specifically, that is at 0 and this is at 1. So what I can do is, let's say box plot 1, let's go ahead and create a new variable to target specifically our cat box plot. And that's going to be equal to box plots, which is what we've created. And then here I'm going to say brackets, and then in parentheses, I'm going to put boxes. And then, sorry, and not in parentheses, in quotations. I want to target the boxes. And then just like you said, now on the outside of that, we're going to say 0.
Index 0.
Index of 0. Cool. So that is now targeting my box plot 1. So now what I can do is I can say on a new line, I've created this box plot 1. Let's say box plot 1 dot, because I am targeting that. And then here, this is going to be called set face color. So set underscore and then face color is all one word. Perfect. And then what I'm going to do is just exactly, I'm going to pass in a color. So let's say orange. Perfect. So let's see what happens here. Great. Now we've been able to, now we changed the face color or the color of my actual box to orange. I can add in a label if I wanted, if we really want to make this, just by saying PYT or PLT label. So if I just said label, that's one thing. But if I say PLT dot Y label, then I can put, it looks like it says mean number of animals per state. Perfect. Great. And if I wanted to increase it, I could always just pass in that font size. So just comma font size and then say like 20, and then it'll make it much larger like that. that make sense? Does that
Mhm.
help?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Ashley in the chat says, if you want to make it transparent, you could use the argument alpha with using 0 and 1. And that would be in your box props if you were creating, we didn't create a box props, I don't believe, but if I use that, so like, let's even try, yeah, you would have to create a box, that box props. So to deal with just my box properties right here.
Oh, would it
Within
be
that,
inside the, oh, yeah.
it'd be inside that box plot. So it's a box props. And then same thing, same sort of dictionary. It takes in a dictionary. Yep. And then let's say alpha equals 0.4. Let's just see what that does. There you go. Thanks for that tip and trick, Ashley. Cool. Did that help? That makes
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Awesome. Great question. Any questions on that? Also, I do want to note, while I have this as a recording, is yesterday when we went through the mock belt exam, we were really sort of trying to figure out what to do with that extra gender piece. David, you hit it right on the head. I was looking at the Discord today. I was looking at it and talked with another instructor today about it. And if you look at it, what that total is doing is it's taking the, so let's say that there was the group of 15 to 24 of Uzbekistan. What it's doing is it's taking the male literacy rate and the female literacy rate and then having the total and then finding sort of the like the total literacy rate of the group of 15 to 24. Now, if you were doing any sort of predictive modeling, you can't do predictive modeling with that because in predictive modeling, we have to assume that every data point and know that every data point is not connected to any other data points, right? And so in this regard, if I decrease female, then my total decreases as well. So you can't do predictive modeling. But from an exploratory analysis, it's totally fine to have. It's almost like an extra calculation that we could have done. It's just already done for us. So if I wanted to do something like I wanted to plot literacy rates from 2011 to 2008 using like a line, or 2018, sorry, using like a line plot or line graph, I could do it by female, male, and then total, which would give me just sort of a different story there. So
That's
you
fine.
can keep it in there. Yeah.
Okay. Sure, yeah. So I can just screen share just in case people don't know what I'm talking about. So I'll go ahead and screen share just to see.
Well, we're actually about to start class. So
never mind.
we can talk. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Yeah,
problem.
we're starting class in 1 minute. So we'll talk about that. We can talk about it after class if you want.
Okay, sure, no problem.
Cool. This will be the end of the office hours.